Hi. How is everyone doing? Thanks for having us. We've been chatting, looking forward to this for some time. Ryan runs all of consumer product for LinkedIn. It's probably the maybe safest way of describing what you do, which is a big deal, especially when it comes to mobile, because how many mobile apps do you guys have now? You have a lot.
We have a lot. It's taken us a while to go back and forth from single to multiple, but I think right now, at least like in the iOS store, I think we probably have 11 apps.
11 separate apps. Okay, so I want you maybe to start by walking me through why LinkedIn needs 11 apps, because I have my profile on my laptop, and there are certain features that I really like, and why choose to break them out into that many different pieces?
Yeah, so it's a strategy that we've been working on for 4+ years now, and let me at least explain kind of the challenge to start with, which is that the core of LinkedIn is a graph. We call it the economic graph, where we have a digital representation of every professional in the world. It's our goal. Every company in the world, every job from all those companies, every skill required to get one of those jobs, every educational facility, every course, and our ability to map that data together for what we call the economic graph. We believe that we can do a lot of good things for the world by mapping this data together. And when you think about the scale we have right now, we've got over 400 million members, growing at about 2 per second on LinkedIn. With all this data going back and forth, it gives you massive optionality to build really cool stuff on top of this economic graph.
Like using the data?
Like using the data, and that's what we've actually gone and done. We've built a variety of businesses. So, first and foremost, this graph is a great way to stay connected and inform people professionally to see if you've changed a job or if you're doing anything new. We've been able to build a very large recruiting sourcing business on top of this graph, a very large sales business, a very large marketing business, and fairly recently now we're getting the learning part of the business as well. And
that's Lynda.com.
That's
you guys
correct.
Acquired almost exactly a year ago.
That's right. So that's the challenge, that you have this graph of information with a lot of use cases on top of it. And on the desktop, it's fairly simple to add another tab or throw the link in there. But when it comes down to a mobile device, who at the end of the day should provide a pretty seamless experience, the same thing that someone trying to upload basically their profile, work on their resume, it's a much different use case from a professional recruiter who's trying to bang on the graph to find people to hire for certain jobs. So we started to break apart those use cases into a variety of apps, and that's why you see a lot of these apps in the App Store. We found that for a lot of the professional enterprise type use cases, like a recruiter or a salesperson or a marketer who's using LinkedIn or as a premium product to access that graph, we found a very strong use case there. We started to venture out a little bit a year ago with separating some of the consumer stuff into various apps. So we built an app called Connected, which allowed you to just use the use case of knowing what people around you were doing, did they change their job, etc. And we actually found that was so close to the core of what LinkedIn was about that it was hard to sustain it as a standalone app. You fold it right back in a couple months ago.
How long did that experiment last? Like, how long do you test a feature as a standalone and decide no more?
I think it varies. I think that we tested this one for almost a year, and while people loved it, they loved the fact that functionality was also inside of the LinkedIn's kind of core flagship app as well. So we redesigned and relaunched this new flagship core LinkedIn app, the blue logo on your phone, late 2015, and really made that a core piece of it, then folded that stuff back in.
Gotcha. So you guys have a ton of features, a ton of data. It's easier to break it out into smaller chunks for people to consume, for maybe boiling it down. So what's the expectation for you in terms of how many apps users are actually going to download, right? So there's the main flagship app that I assume you want everyone to have. After that, how important is it for you that I have 11 of 11 apps or 6 of 11 apps? Like, how do you think about it?
I think for the average professional, one app is probably right. But if you are using LinkedIn as a recruiter and as a premium service of LinkedIn, you need a lot of different functionality. You need the ability to do folders, send custom messages, save in different ways, etc. Throw it into the ATS. And that type of stuff requires a complete, separate, unique experience. So I don't envision an average professional having, probably more than one app. Now, one area we found to be unique is when someone actually turns into a very active job seeker, a very specific, I want to go deep, I'm really trying to find a job. We have broken out a specific app just for job seeking. And I think what's been core to our ability to be successful with that is when someone's inside of the flagship app and they exhibit this behavior of, I'm ready to go down the path to become a job seeker, we incent them to kind of go down to this other app, and that seems to be a pretty strong use case. So most people will have the flagship app, then from there, a lot of people have the job seeker app when they're in job seeking mode, and then the rest of them are more on the enterprise professional side.
So at what point do you guys decide, this feature is worth breaking out versus, you mentioned the example of, hey, we tried to break this out, it didn't really work, we brought it back in. Who's making those decisions, and at what point along the process do you say, hey, this feature seems to have reached a popularity that it's worth the time and resources to actually build something new?
So I think that from the perspective of these very focused enterprise business apps like recruiting, sales, marketing, etc., that have very deep, distinct use cases and feature sets, it's a no-brainer. Those are also part of our monetization strategy. We don't necessarily want recruiters using the flagship app to try and do their job. It's not built for that. So on the monetization side, it's very easy. On the consumer side, it really boils down to have we found a use case which is predominant enough that people are using so much that we can't do a good enough job of it inside of this flagship app that requires us to break it out. And like I said, we've tried a few things. We pulled it back in. Jobs is the one that I think makes the most sense right now.
So I guess overall, if you could kind of, and I realize they're probably each going to have their own performance metrics and whatnot, but how is it performing as 11 separate apps, right? Because I remember, I think when you and I first started talking a couple years ago, when this idea was formulating, unbundling was like the thing, right? Everyone wanted to take all their features and create all these new apps. Facebook was very good about trying to do that, and now it seems like I don't want any of those extra Facebook apps. I just want the big blue Facebook app. So, are these still succeeding, or are you guys kind of coming to a similar realization that, hey, maybe we should start to bring this stuff back together?
So, I would say that it's become very successful once we understood that the core features of the flagship app, which are staying connected, staying informed through a feed of information, through editing your profile, through staying connected to people, like that stuff living inside of the blue button on your phone, blue pin button is the core, and I feel very strongly that that's working very well. And then on the, again, to complicate the matters, but on the enterprise side of things, like we quite simply cannot make these professionals who are paying us to use these services to recruit or sell and market successful in this one app. So we have to break them out. So I think that we've gone back and forth and kind of weaved our way into a very successful mix right now. We're on the consumer side, one app, flagship plus jobs makes sense. And on the enterprise side, you may see us do many more as well, because very specific functional groups of professionals need very different and unique things against that big graph we talked about.
So you guys recently rolled out a massive update to your core app. Walk me through what it's like to totally change a product that 400 plus million people use, right? What's, just personally, when you hit go on that day, and you're like, all right, everyone, here's the new experience, what's that like to create a product like that?
Yeah, so it's very interesting and unique because, we're privy to a lot of data to understand how people are using things and what they like and dislike. But no one likes change at all. Sure. And so, I remember after we launched kind of the new app, I started to get some emails from friends that I've never heard of in a long time, who were like, hey Ryan, I think you work at LinkedIn, why did you wreck this? Why did you guys do this? I was using it for this thing. And so then because of people don't like change, kind of the metrics go in crazy ways for a couple of days, you're like, oh my God, did we totally mess this up?
Did you second guess yourself?
Absolutely. You're always second guessing yourself, but I think that the good thing about this launch, where we're always testing, is that this one very quickly, I would say about a week or two later, the sentiment started to change, where it's like, oh wow, this is a much simpler way for me to try and do what I was doing before. even though I used to think the button was here, now it's here, now I get why they did it. Like the sentiment started to change, the metrics started to change, and we're seeing very strong acceleration across the entire product set with the new update. So.
What was the one, I know one of the big things that I focused on with the new app is that you guys actually have a messaging feature, right? There was always InMail. It was very much like email, and it was very, it didn't feel personal necessarily. You now have like direct messaging. So that seems to be a hot thing for a lot of companies in your space, Facebook certainly, Twitter, Snapchat, those. How much do you guys think about messaging specifically as a product, and you know, how important is that to you as a social network?
I think the way that I think about our product is, you know, that graph I talked about in the beginning is such a core and integral part of what's going on. And what we're trying to do now is you have someone who's trying to somehow interact with this graph. We want to build a product in the middle that is as transparent and seamless way as possible for someone to stay connected to that graph. So the most seamless way possible for someone to understand when someone new got a job, or you know, I want to reach out to say hi to someone or to ask someone about something in their company. So we try to make it as simple as possible. We didn't go out and use crazy words. We used words that, like, you know, messaging is called messaging. You know, me is for me. I click on me, I get my profile. Trying to make it as simple as possible is basically just a container to facilitate someone trying to reach out and get through this network. And you know, it turns out, especially on the phone, people like to talk to each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, it took you guys a long
it.
time to get that, right? If I may be blunt.
Yeah, you can be blunt. I think that we always knew it. I will say that we're very pleased with the results that we're seeing through the new app, especially through messaging. You know, turns out people really do like to talk to each other.
Sure. I feel like there's this kind of, certainly hasn't happened yet, a lot of chatter around bots, right? A lot of people seem to think that instead of apps, maybe you're not going to have 11 apps, you're going to have bots or some type of artificial intelligence that's going to make this all easier. I don't need to download all these apps because the bot's going to handle this for me. Do you guys think about bots at all? You know, either hosting them from other developers on LinkedIn or creating them yourselves? I
think we do think about it for a while. I think in the professional context, you can envision a lot of places where the word bots get thrown around a lot, and there's a big spectrum from basically what is a, you know, if-then statement built into the app all the way down to like artificial intelligence. There's a big spectrum of what that means. But the notion that, you know, that something specific inside of the app can help me do things better, from schedule an interview to reach out to someone to help me get something done, is something that we're very passionate about, really excited about.
So, does that mean like, okay, so we're talking about splitting out features. Right now messaging is part of the big app. Bots and messaging, a lot of that seems to be the one area that people have had success kind of splitting out. Do you guys consider that, or have you thought about that?
I think that, kind of back along that paradigm I talked about before, which is that at a certain point, if there's enough traction to make sense to break it out as a standalone use case, we would. I think right now, with the core of the app being really about staying connected and informed with the people, like, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Sure. I want to ask you about the actual content itself. We're going to try to take a few questions at the very end, probably in 3 or 4 minutes, so for those of you interested, just keep that in mind. You guys just bought Lynda.com. We mentioned that briefly at the beginning. That was a pretty big purchase about a year ago, and for those who aren't familiar, Lynda.com is a video tutorial library, right? All different courses and classes and things. Kind of explain to me, it sounds rather obvious, but why is it so important that you guys actually own great content versus relying on users to create it, right? I imagine you kind of want to be able to drive people to your app, not just with the things I'm posting, but with what you have as well.
Yeah, so on the learning side specifically, you take a big step back, there's fundamentally a flaw in the education ecosystem that we understand very well. 50% of college graduates right now are graduating unemployed or underemployed. Student debt has now outpaced like credit card debt in the United States. And there exists a ton of jobs that just aren't getting filled on the flip side. So this is a big problem that needs to be solved. And in order to go and solve that problem, you need a couple of assets. You need to know all professionals in the world. You need to know all the jobs that are being posted in the world from all the companies. You need to know what skills are required to actually fill those gaps. And you need the coursework in order to make that happen. And it just happens that we have all those assets. And we're very passionate about our ability to put those assets together and to start to help fix some of the skills gaps that exist or get people into the right jobs. And it's something that I'm personally very passionate about. It's something that, a couple of days ago, you actually covered this, we took a lot of this great content from Lynda, we launched what are called 50 learning paths, which are, you think about all the data LinkedIn has running underneath it. We know where skills gaps exist. We know that, for example, right now in the city of Denver, for example, there are a ton of jobs being posted that require Python as a skill, and there are not a lot of people that are applying for those jobs right now, on LinkedIn in Denver. And there's actually a ton of people who are looking for jobs who have basic coding skills already. So our ability through these learning paths to take someone and say, hey, here's coursework to get you trained up as a Python developer. Because by the way, there's 30 jobs right now that are waiting for you or someone like you to go through this coursework to get that job. We can do that at scale across every city, every skill, every job.
Recommend those courses.
That's right. But the piece that we missed out of all that was having that really good content that an employer can stand behind to say, you know what, if Kurt Wagner just took took and passed this course on how to become an SEO expert, a digital marketer, like we're going to hire him from that. And that's the missing piece of that graph we had to put together with Lynda, and couldn't be more excited about it. It's a big deal.
Is there going to be, LinkedIn University? Like, am I going to be able to actually compile courses to the point where I could get some type of a degree or something that would hold weight in the working world?
So, here's a great example. If you are a marketer right now, you most likely did not learn how to use the Facebook ad manager tool in college.
Sure.
And by the way, if you're a marketer right now, you better know how to do that if you want to be employed. So you've got all these people who don't have these skills. We have all this data on LinkedIn, all these jobs that require you have to know how to buy ads on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. People that don't know how to do it. Our ability to put those things together, to recommend to you, hey, you want this job, take this course. By the way, all these companies have certified that if you take this course and pass it, you're accredited with those skills, we're going to go and put you in those jobs. So again, pretty excited to do this at massive scale.
Let's take a few questions.
We'll start right over here. We're going to have time just for about 2 because we're running a little bit late here, but that's more opportunity to talk at the party, so we'll go ahead and get a couple here.
Beautiful.
You're very unnecessary talking.
Yes, communication.
I'll try not to go over the mic. I thought when you guys bought Connected and Sachin that you were going to fix my address book, and you didn't. Are you going to do it this year?
Absolutely.
To the point.
Yes.
That was super civil. Here we go.
That's good. Maybe we can do 3.
Yep, we'll do 3.
That's quick.
There we go.
Yes or no question?
Great. Just going back to the app fragmentation issue. First off, I totally understand that you guys have a huge number of use cases you need to address. But I'm curious, as a head of product, what's your perspective on finding an economically viable model for an API so that developers can experiment for you?
I think that historically we've been back and forth on it. I think moving forward, I want to be much more open to it. There's a fine line to walk there for a lot of our existing businesses where, where at the end of the day we're actually selling access to different packages of this data to a salesperson, recruiter, etc. Where you got as soon as you open the API, you've got 1,000 companies who want to build that same thing and go out and sell it. The more we go into some of the messaging stuff, some of the feed stuff, some of the learning stuff, I think there's many more opportunities for someone to tag into this graph for those reasons. We recently just did, we made a lot of data in the graph available for what we call the Economic Graph Challenge, where people could get the data for a variety of things that would do good for the world, and we saw a ton of amazing things come out of that. Very interested in doing much more of that.
Hi. What was the #1 KPI that you guys were targeting when you redesigned the app?
So at the end of the day, we focus on sessions as the key thing we're looking at, which I think down the funnel you can start with uniques and then kind of eventually ends up at sessions, but we really focus on, someone using the app and using it more frequently during the day is something that